Hello, Facebook. Hello, Instagram. Welcome to another episode of The Big Time with me, your host, Claudine Ullman. I am so bloody excited for my guest today. But before I introduce her, let's play that intro music.
My name is Claudine Ullman, actress, improviser, and all-round hustler. And you're listening to The Big Time podcast. My chance to speak to industry greats, movers, shakers, and game changers. People who are making waves and setting new standards. Who are they? What inspires them? And what do they have to do to hit the big time? You hit the big time, baby. Joining us in studio.
Not in studio, from her own home studio. I am so excited to welcome the very talented, the brilliant Sylvaine Strike. Wait, look what I downloaded for you. And when I say downloaded, I opened up a YouTube page.
What have you done?
Just some air horns. Just some air horns for you.
Hi. Oh, excellent. I'm broadcasting from my daughter's room because she's got the best light. So this is kind of where I'm at, with a dream catcher in the background, and as we are in lockdown.
Well, your skin looks amazing and that lighting is beautiful.
Oh,
and
good.
It's so nice to see you. So yay! Welcome to the big time.
Lovely to see you. Thank you.
It's so cool that you are here. So first question always is, how are you during lockdown? How are you coping? Are you well?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's how many days have we been at it?
60, I don't know.
I think it's a time of true reckoning for so many of us in terms of self-reflection and having to realize the whole other side of ourselves when we aren't out there creating actively and with each other. And I think it's been very hard for me to feel how strongly I am out of pure love for what I do, just very, very, very much missing the space that I work in and the creative space that I work in. And I know that, it goes across the board. I'm certainly not alone in that, but I miss people a lot. I miss creatives enormously.
Yeah. And especially what you do. It's totally reliant on the audience and the ensemble. It's not like stand-up where it's just, it's also reliant on the audience, but it's just me tonight,
Yeah. The ensemble work and creating in an ensemble is, I suppose, as a director, and I'm also a performer, but when I create, it's mostly as a director of late and has been for the past decade. So I always feel, that really is my time with them, and then I have to let them go, my cast. So my creative space is really my most important space. And of course, we're product driven, and the product eventually gets birthed, and then I have to let them go. So I've noticed in this lockdown just how reliant I am on that creative space to fuel me in order for me to fuel them. So it's a very circular thing, and I'm missing it very much. I'm exploring many different mediums, like so many of us are at the moment. So I'm surviving lockdown. We all have to. We don't have any excuse not to if we've got a roof over our head and we're able to keep warm in these times and keep fed. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge with family and kids. It's hard on them. It's hard to see them re-enter the schooling system and feel, the absence of what was very strongly. There's nothing very exciting about being isolated when they return to school and amidst each other and so on. So it's been a massive learning curve to try and keep them balanced. Yeah.
Totally. I have to keep myself balanced, and that's already
completely.
Yeah, all the plants have died. So I totally get it. I no children to worry about. So that's a whole nother level of bravery there.
It's hard enough, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. But let's talk about, I mean, I'm glad that you are surviving. First of all, let me say that, and making it work, doing what you got to do.
You too. I mean, look what you're doing. It's wonderful.
I know. Look at this bloody. I mean, have you ever I've got logos and the production value has gone up.
So
I'm
exciting. It's something we would never considered if we weren't forced into it, right?
So true. I mean, Jittery has completely moved online. And
so
I guess
cool.
it forces us to like innovate.
Yeah.
Have you done or tried, or your actors tried any sort of live performance yet? Online?
Yeah, I mean, not so much live performance yet as creating something now which has been commissioned. Well, I mean, we applied for the NAF, James Cunningham and I, and we're making a production called Jigsaw, which is between two performers in totally different parts of the world, because James Cunningham is now in Abu Dhabi, and Ian Ewok Robinson, the poet and rap artist and actor, is in Durban, and it's a Zoom conversation between two friends that we've penned, which is live, and it's going to live stream, and we're rehearsing that at the moment, but it's intercepted by these exquisite animations that that basically highlight what they're talking about in real life, and their inner worlds and their inner thoughts. So the Zoom segues into animation, but it's a live stream. So that's very exciting, and that's for the National Arts Festival. So that's the kind of work I'm exploring at the moment, which involves a lot of film type direction, because I've got to use the frame that I have for Zoom and work with them as film actors now. So that's been quite interesting. And then, working live, not really, no. I've kind of shied away quite a lot from the online world, I must be honest. I think that a world without an immediate audience for us as actors feels very... it feels compromised in a big way.
I mean, that show sounds incredible.
Well, we'll see. We're in the throes of experimenting. So, and I love just moving forward with stuff and seeing what works. So it really is a segue between animation, live work, recorded work, and just pushing boundaries, I suppose, and re-identifying ourselves and making theatre for this type of platform, as opposed to seeing this platform as an obstacle. Is the game. Yeah.
Do you know who is killing it in terms of, I mean, I wouldn't, some of it is theatre, some of it is sketch, some of it is stand-up, some of it is chat and interview. Do you know Stuart Goldsmith? Comedian.
Know. No, I don't know him personally. I mean, I haven't seen him personally. I've heard of him.
So he is so great. He does this online live show that I would really look at, because it is just so, as I say, he combines everything and pulls the show together, and he basically does a show called Infinite Sofa.
Oh, how divine.
Oh, it's so great, and speaks to people in real time. It's just next level.
Oh, wow.
And sounds like what you're talking about. Stuart Goldsmith, comedian.
Write that down right now. Thank you.
Yeah, and just have a look, because it's working.
Well, I think there's a major spectrum for comedy online. I mean, what feels familiar is that sort of Saturday Night Live team, that space where they've been creating online, well, not online, but screen comedy for so long. I suppose the only difference is without the immediacy of an audience response, which is very, very hard. You can have a response on a tweet, but the immediate satisfaction of laughter. I mean, I watched, which I think they're doing incredible things with this instance. And I think there's something there. But what I missed watching it as an audience member was the immediate ability to laugh and reward the comedian with a laugh. I was deprived of that as an audience member. And it's not to say that it doesn't work, but I suddenly was aware of how much I needed to laugh out loud for them to be affirmed as well. And so I would imagine comedy is taking on a different shape.
Totally. Yeah. Like even having done some performances live, getting used to the sort of trust that you have to have in yourself to go, I'm hilarious, and my jokes work, and I've tried these jokes, and I've got to just push through and not be dependent on no one's laughing, I'm not interacting.
I can imagine that is huge to negotiate and navigate for yourself, and just to have the faith, the blind faith that someone out there is chuckling.
Yes.
Oh God.
Please just say you like this. Yeah. So totally, it's changing, and I'm trying to go with the change, but who knows if it's for the better or not,
But we must adapt for now, and I will never say that it's going to be the new medium. I'm saying this is the interim, and we cannot afford to be dormant and not explore this field while we're forced into it, because we have no choice.
Totally. So let's talk about your journey and how you got into theatre and performance. Like, when you were little, were you like, this is what I want to do, I was born for this, I know exactly?
Yeah, I mean, I'm often asked this, and I mean, I have not been asked it for a while, but when I am asked this, it is a resounding clarity that I have as a recollection, which was I want to be a clown. From the age of 4, it was something I expressed to my parents. I mean, I'd seen clowns. I was brought up with a French mum, so the world of the clown, le clown, the red-nosed world was very familiar to me. And it was something I felt I understood. I just understood it. And I felt, obviously, and this is why we're called to this, a certain amount of visibility when I was funny. I was in the middle of 3 girls. So I think that it kind of gave me the in to make people laugh somehow. So that was the beginning of it. It's not to say that I became a comedian, but I have a very clear understanding that the boundaries of clown can be very fluid and can bring you into tragedy as well. So I guess I felt compelled by the clown for those purposes, that I would just be visible on some level, but that I would also be able to be heard. On some, So a performer wasn't necessarily as clear to me as the world of the clown, which seemed to attract some level of heightened attention. That's where it began for me. But I only really moved into really passionately following my craft in the then Standard 9, so grade 11. It took me a while to really wake up to it completely. It was always dormant, and I didn't really know how to structure it.
I mean, it's so fantastic that you knew what you wanted to do from so young, and as you say, it's a calling. But even in Standard 9, how do you go about, for people to say, I want to become an actor, they have difficulty with that. But to say, I want to become a clown, especially in South Africa,
I mean, no, I had to phrase it differently, Claude. I did. I mean, I think there was a part of me that also knew that if I were to enter this world, I had to get the foundations, I had to have the basics, I had to go through the drama school process, which I did, and was very fortunate at drama school to be taught by Jenny Resnick, who had just finished at Lecoq.
Okay.
And it was a major inspiration in terms of feeling I was being taught by somebody who knew what I needed and who also was a great inspiration. So Lecoq became the next schooling for me, where I really, really found my identity as a creative. And I'd already been working as a professional. So I did UCT. I went to the UCT drama school, did 3 years there, and then worked for 5 years and worked successfully. I worked on television. I worked on stage. Had a major breakthrough just before leaving for Paris with the famous Mark Ravenhill's Shopping and, are we allowed to say it? I don't know.
Totally.
Shopping and Packing by Mark Ravenhill and directed by Yael Faber. And at that point, I had already applied to go to Lecoq, and so I was transitioning from doing quite serious drama with a lot of a lot of incredible excavation work done by Yale and the company I was in at the time. And then I flew off. And of course, in my first year at Lecoq, thought, what the hell am I doing here? They're breaking me down completely to start over. But it's somehow I knew that that's what I needed. And it was an incredibly humbling and very, very rich experience for me to be living in Paris and rediscovering my voice as an artist and as a creative, and not just being an actor waiting for that call and that audition. I found the whole, and still do find the whole auditioning system fairly taxing and fairly humiliating.
Oh, my God. I mean, my audition, I don't know if it's a fear. I just find it soul destroying.
It is a fear. It is a fear. I think we don't do enough of them here, firstly.
Yeah.
To ever get them into our system. But I also think that even, speaking to actors who get a lot more auditions overseas and that, there is still, you get audition fit, I suppose. But the trepidation around being visible in the right way, being thought of in the right way, making an impact when on that day you're feeling low and don't believe in yourself, it can be terrifying. One can't quantify an actor's worth in that moment, and yet we're expected to. So that fragility, I think that fragility is also important to hang on to, because the vulnerability I sense in actors when I'm auditioning them, I must never let go of knowing what that feels like.
Totally. As
a director.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I audition people for Jittery, or if I've produced or directed commercials or whatever I've done, I try to make the environment as cool and as fun and as calm, so people really have the opportunity to bring out who they actually are and to shine, because I know how intimidating that space can be.
And not many people create that facility, right? Not many people, and often there isn't the time, and especially if you're going for commercials or a film audition, it's usually very last minute. But the atmosphere of an audition is everything, and how you can get the very best out of that actor in that moment is absolutely your duty as a casting director and as an actor. And that doesn't often happen.
Yeah, totally. So let's talk about the theatre, or your process in terms of creating theatre, because you're not just a director or you're not just an actor. You kind of have the full package and experience in all of that. So does it affect your process and the way you create theatre?
I think that having performed and continuing to perform on various mediums, I try to never, and that's exactly what we were talking about just now, never lose touch with what it feels like to perform. And I guess in a way, my actor self is always very present within the director self, to look after an actor's feelings and to try and accommodate a way of working with a particular actor as much as possible. So I think it is instrumental to how I work as a director. It's part of the package, as you say, and I can never seem to divorce the two. They're always in the same room.
And is it fair to say you prefer one over the other?
I've come to prefer directing, because I don't feel the need for that visibility that I recognize I felt well into my 20s and maybe my early 30s. I'd need to still be visible in that way, and there's nothing wrong with it. I just felt that once I started directing, I had far more pots to deal with, and the recipe became richer, as opposed to looking after my own character within a play. And obviously, being open for interaction with other actors, which I love, and I love that symbiosis. But I think being able to facilitate that symbiosis and direct it between two actors as opposed to be one of those actors felt a lot richer for me, and felt like I was part of could control a bigger vision and therefore tell my story through my actors in a more successful way.
Interesting. Okay. So what is next? I know you said you're adapting and you're doing this online stuff. But what is, wait, I'm going to ask it this way. We'll come back to that, put a pin in it. Has there been a moment, because you've had an incredible career, you've won awards, you've made inspiring, beautiful, awesome theatre. Has there been a moment in your career that you've gone, this is it, I've hit the big time?
No, there hasn't. I think I've gotten very close to feeling this is it, I'm on the right track. This is it. This is the kind of theatre I want to make. But with every single play I've done, I have reinvented myself. So I've never, ever relied on the previous recipe or formula. And I think that that's kept me very hungry and fairly scared.
Yeah.
And I know, to many, I might come across as very confident in the space and that, but I'm always trying something new. So inside there's a part of me who is the actor experiencing a new part, which is my new play for the first time. So the new story, whether it's, if you take a Tartuffe as opposed to Curse of the Starving Class and then Endgame, none of those could possibly rely on the same formula. I have a very, very strong way of working with actors and a connection with actors and an ability to connect with them as individuals. That remains, I suppose, a constant. But if I were to say, have I, this is it, I've made it, I've never felt that, because I've always felt I've had to keep growing and reinventing myself, or otherwise I would just perish.
Okay, that's great. I totally get you. I love to hear this answer, because now this is the 9 millionth, I don't know how many big times I've done, but to just hear how people view success and what it means to them, and just to know that it's actually about the journey.
Yeah, it really is,
Yeah.
And I think it's important that there are awards, and I think it's important that those things are there to set a bar and to encourage younger performers and younger directors to look up to, because we don't have enough of that in the country. We don't have enough of a legacy that, where a large group of youngsters can be trained as directors and go out into the world, because there's so many of us out there giving them that umbrella to be an apprentice under. So there are very few of us and far between. So I think, that it becomes apparent that when awards come your way, sadly, you're never offered major contracts on the ground of having won an award in this country. It's just the way it works, or doesn't work. So they've come to, as much as one aspires to initially, try and be up there with the ones who've been inspired by, when you get one, it feels like you've got to keep going and make the next work, because we live from hand to mouth, really. So one can never say, well, once I get that award, I'll be offered so many things,
Have you read Elizabeth, what is her surname? Big Magic.
No.
She wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes,
well.
and I know that book, yes, but I don't know the other that you've mentioned.
I'm sure it's called Big Magic. It's about so basically she talks about having this huge creative hit. Eat, Pray, Love, it put her out there. She was like, yes, this is it. I hit the big time. And then the absolute fear and terror that comes with the fame and the awards and will my next work be good enough?
There is an enormous amount of expectation. I mean, and I think we partly place it on ourselves, But I do think it's out there, and I do think that there isn't enough room to really have an off day or have an off show within our careers, but they will happen inevitably, and they do have to happen. And those failures are growing curves because of exactly what you've just said. It's the process and the journey. And as cliched as that sounds, because I know it gets repeated often, what you discover about yourself as a director or an actor in the process is paramount. It's paramount to how you're going to do your next work.
Oh, so this is interesting to me. As a clown, has your ideas and feelings around failure changed? Like, has clowning made you braver?
It has. It definitely has. I mean, I run a workshop called Failing Brilliantly, which I'm convinced is something that we all need to actually adopt, and particularly when we're experimenting and when we're putting ourselves out there, there's got to be some kind of absolute celebration of whatever this may be. I've got to do it well. And if I fall and fail, I've got to do it with some kind of sense of celebration.
Yeah,
so the clown does constantly hover over one in that respect. And I think it certainly permits you to be gentler on yourself, the clown, and being in touch with your clown, because of the excavation you do with your inner clown. You are so much more aware of your vulnerability, and so when you're aware of your vulnerability, you can also put yourself into more dangerous situations.
Totally. That is what I just adore from watching your theatre and from me clowning and having gotten the opportunity to clown with you, is that feeling of going, I failed and this is hilarious. I failed and this is working, and it's just such a beautiful state. Such a beautiful state.
It's a beautiful state. And I mean, the law of the clown is that they don't exist without the other one seeing them. So that in itself is so telling. So if you are going to go up there and you're going to fail, then you've got to defend it all the way and still believe that you're entitled to stay longer.
Yes,
and be visible. I mean, that's the clown's world. Obviously, when you're doing a show and it's not working, you're not going to hog time. But there is that sense of I may take up space because if I stay a little longer, they might like me.
Yes.
I might convince them, which is such a great thing for the clown.
Oh, it's so awesome. So awesome. So this is my part B to the question that I had. What is, I know we just said it was a journey, but what is big dreams for Sylvaine? What is your big time?
It's so interesting to be asked this in the midst of this particular space we're in, this mad pandemic, and particularly the crippling state that our sector finds itself in. And I'll tell you why. Because before lockdown, I had 4 contracts taking me up until the end of November. 2 of them were new plays. One of them was Kiss of the Spider Woman, and the other one was A German Life, with the Fugard Theatre, which Antoinette Kellerman would be playing the role that Maggie Smith had just come off Broadway playing and West End. So they were beautiful plays that were super important. One was about 2 men in confinement in lockdown. And I'd planned this way before this hit us. And then the other one is about this woman who worked for Goebbels. She was the private secretary to Goebbels. She was his propaganda secretary. And she claims not to have known what she was writing and typing and doing for him during his reign as the propaganda Nazi of all time. So there were these 2 themes, and they were taken away when I felt that this was an incredibly important time to be talking about accepting the other, which is what happens in Kiss of the Spider Woman. A gay man, a straight about the warnings of how easily a democracy can slip into something much, much more sinister, which is what happened to Berlin in the 1930s, and is what happened. It feels like sometimes America is going through. There's this kind of echo of this pattern of how something is slipping into a dictatorship. I'm coming a long way around your question, which was, what is the big time? Is having thought, oh, this year is going to be so beautiful, and having to accept that it can't be those stories anymore. So what are they going to be? And it really has galvanized me into two things. One is writing 2 screenplays and applying and trying to get my 2 films, which I'm doing in collaboration, sent through to the Film Hub in London. And essentially, I would love to direct films, and that is really where I'm headed.
Wow,
that's
amazing.
Yeah, with all the work that I've done, the kind of clowning world that I've been in, I believe that's the point I'm going to with film as well. Should I turn this light on? I'm looking like an avatar. Hold on.
Okay. I mean, that's so incredible. Just because, have you done it before? Would this be like a totally new adventure? In terms of film?
Have I directed film before?
Yes.
I've never directed film. I've only performed in front of the camera. So it's interesting that this has come now. I mean, it's been a long time that I've wanted to do it and dreamed it, but I've always been busy with theatre projects. And now I'm kind of feeling what it might be like to direct in a way with this project I'm doing for the NAF for a film format, but not so much film, but working on camera as opposed to live. And then these two screenplays have really moved forward in the last 6 to 8 weeks because I've been writing. Yeah,
that's incredible.
So it feels like it's kind of pushed me into a direction I never thought would happen so soon. And who knows, maybe there'll be a total failure, but I'm trying.
Well, I am holding that dream for you as well. And if your films are anything like your theatre shows, you've got a hugely successful career in film. So that's amazing. Wow. That's such a cool. It's
God
such a
willing,
cool,
would love to work with you on a film.
I would love that. I literally, my biggest claim to fame at the moment is I have 3 lines in Queen Sono, and I love people. I have 3 lines, and I am just, I've made it. That's my big time. That's my big time.
That is so great.
Yeah. So this is so exciting, and this is so awesome. And you are only rising and getting, closer to what you want to achieve, clearly. What advice would you give to people who are like sitting at home right now going, I want to be a clown?
If you have that calling, you can't ignore it. And it will find you in whatever shape or form it does. I mean, I didn't mention that after I'd gone to Lecoq, I came back and had to work, and I got a role on Isidingo as the new Lee Haynes, the Barker Haynes' daughter. And it was you still there? Oh, just lost you for a minute.
Sorry. I also lost you for a second. Sorry. I lost you, Barker Haynes.
Yeah. Yes. So there was that, and there was contracts that were signed, and then I just kind of really, I felt I'm going against something that I'm feeling it intrinsically. It's not working for me. It is not working for me. And I committed to it, and I was very, very sort of grateful for the role. But after something as serious as that, because Lee Haynes was a serious character and stuff, the clown found me again. The clown pulled me back on stage. The clown reversed that process and called me to what I was really, really needing to do, which was tell the stories and tell about this particular vulnerability. So even if you are not committing to being that voice of the clown, that purity that comes with the clown and the access one has to telling stories in the way a clown does, and you're doing other mediums, they are all preparing you for that clown to come out. So, but never ignore it, is what I'm saying. It has to be worked on consistently and developed and respected. So yeah, the advice I have is not to ignore it. I think it's very real. You know, and I think people misunderstand when we say clown. I mean, in our sector, in our circles, we understand the essence of clown. Clown is not necessarily circus. Clown is being in touch with something far deeper. You know, and so your artistic circle widens when you allow the clown in. It becomes the medium of music and painting and movement and all the things that art is comprised of exist in the clown.
Amazing. I mean, that is just, I could speak to you for 3 days about work and clowning, but I know you are exceptionally busy, and I promised we would keep this short. So I just want to say thank you for being on the big time and spending time inspiring people, because this is actually what the show is about. The show really is about you and your journey and your successes, and actually, hopefully the people at home are watching it and going, I can do that too. So I appreciate it so much.
And thank you for being so inspirational and setting this up and asking people on board. And you've had wonderful guests, and it's just really lovely. And to give them a voice during this time as well, it's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I just adore you. Please, everybody, right now, when you are watching this, go to Fortune Cookie. What is social media handles?
So fortunecookie.theatre.com, that's our website, and at Fortune Cookie as well.
At Fortune
Cookie. At Fortune Cookie Theatre, sorry.
Yeah. At Fortune Cookie Theatre. We will be following you and watching you. I cannot wait for that show that is coming out with James. So exciting. Adore you, and I'm so glad you do so well.
Thanks, Claudine. Have a brilliant evening, and thank you for this. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you, my darling.
Bye. Have a lovely night. Bye.
You too. Guys, hello. That was the incredible Sylvaine Strike. So I hope you guys are feeling inspired, and if you are theatre creators wanting to get into theatre, or if you are clowns, you see that it's not only possible, but you can thrive as well. You guys are incredible, and I am so grateful for the loyal following I have gotten on the big time. If you are enjoying our content, please feel free. There is a busker code there. This is so hard because it's mirrored. There it is. Where you can donate to the show. I also will mention you and say a big thank you. We have moved over to Claudine Ullman Comedy, or you can catch me on YouTube as well as Instagram. All of the handles are at Claudine Comedy. Thank you for supporting the big time. Until tomorrow when we've got another show. You guys have been amazing. Thank you. Bye.